You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. 'Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good morning, everyone down in South Florida. My name is Andrew Hefner, and I am joined by JJ Metz, and it is time for the Dolphins preview show on DolphinsTalk.com. Thank you so much, JJ, for joining me, and thank you, everyone out there, for joining Fins Up and Rise, as there's a huge matchup against the Arizona Cardinals today. First of all, JJ, you heading out to Hard Rock today?
I am indeed. I do reside in the Deerfield Beach, Florida area, only a 20-minute drive to Hard Rock Stadium. So right after this preview, going to head down to Hard Rock Stadium. Super excited to watch some Fins football, especially since Tua is back, second game of the season. I will be going to. So I'm ecstatic. I'm jumping for joy right now. Woke up, Fins game day. Let's go.
Yeah, of course, if you don't know out there, this is a preview show, so we have to let you know it is a 1 o'clock game on Fox today. The 2-4 Dolphins, who struggled of late, and we'll get into last week's game in a moment, against the 3-4 Arizona Cardinals, who also have some things of their own that we need to discuss. But again, stick around for that. First of all, though, JJ, I know you have some strong feelings, and so do a lot of other hosts here on DolphinsTalk.com about the game last week, as I've been hearing, and I'm sure all the people out there have been hearing a lot of opinions about it. But JJ, let's hear your fresh new opinion about the Dolphins' 16-10 loss against the Colts last week.
Andrew, this is a preview episode, and I was hoping you would skip last week because of how dreadful it was to watch. But let's go over it. Obviously, you start out to a very strong start. Tyler Huntley is able to hit his number one connection in Jonnu Smith multiple times. He got into the end zone early in the first half. And then you start out good. You're up 10-0. You give the punt down, 20 seconds left. Anthony Richardson has the ball at his own 20, and the defense gives up 40 yards. They end up trogging down the field for a field goal, make it one possession going into the half. And then some very questionable play calling decisions from Mike McDaniel in the second half. You have Jalen Wright, who is consistently gaining yardages off of tosses and off of stretches. And at 1st and 10 at the Indianapolis 15 in the fourth quarter, you give a fullback dive to Alex Ingle on 1st and 10 at their 15. That's questionable. Why not just roll with the hot running back in Jalen Wright? You have a running back for a reason. You don't tend to do fullback dives on 1st and 10. And guess what happens? Alex Ingold fumbles another red zone possession that you don't convert. Another very questionable decision that I didn't like by Coach McDaniel was you have it at the 36-yard line. It's 3rd and 1. Why not just run it twice? Maybe this is where you use Alex Ingold, because you want a fullback for short yardage situations where he gives a burst of speed. You don't want to catch defenses off guard on 1st and 10 out opposing team's 15. So 36-yard line, guess what happens? You don't convert 4th and 1, and instead of going for it on 4th and 1 at 36, it's not a guaranteed field goal. Jason Sanders ends up having to kick the field goal. Guess what? No good, as what happens usual with Sanders. Struggles all season long, and very, very questionable play calling. But guess what? You had a backup quarterback. The team was banged up this week. Now that it's not banged up this week, there's still a lot of injuries, which we'll get to later in the show. But the main key emphasis is you have your guy, Tua Tagovailoa, someone who is the backbone of this team. And there were questions about him going into the season, but I think after seeing the backup in Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson, we even saw some Tim Boyle. We know that Tua is the guy for this team, at least for this season.
Yeah, and what I'll say is you're definitely right to criticize Coach McDaniel about some of these interesting plays, but do you think that the full criticism against him, sometimes even people calling for a change in coaching, things like that, do you think that's warranted at this point in the season?
Well, I think you have to look at it like this. Mike McDaniel has been coaching the team for 2 seasons prior to this season, and you've had two playoff appearances. Although it's not what the Dolphins fans were hoping to with this stacked roster, going out getting guys which are huge in the last 2 years, making moves for stars in Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb, and really loading your team up, being under the salary cap to get big key stars, guys who have proved themselves in veterans at other teams. So it's not what we're hoping for, but let's remember this Dolphins franchise hasn't won a playoff game since 2000. So, when you make two straight playoff appearances in your first 2 years, I don't think that people should be calling for his job yet. Let's wait out till the end of the season. We've seen teams like last season, for example, in the Steelers, in the Packers, who started out 2-4 and ended up making the playoffs. So let's give Mike McDaniel the season, then we can reevaluate what we're going to do in the future at the head coaching position.
Yeah, I would say that currently the benefit of the doubt would be hopefully something that some Dolphins fans can agree to give to Coach McDaniel, because, of course, the game, like you said, JJ, you expertly broke down all of the plays that went wrong for the Dolphins last week. So let us talk about this week, though. It's a new week. It's a fresh slate. Tua, as you mentioned, will be back starting this game for the Miami Dolphins, as well as some other injuries. But yeah, let's just start talking about Tua. So, of course, for all those Dolphins fans, and I hate to remind you of this, but week 2 against the Bills on Thursday Night Football, Tua suffered his third major concussion. And when he was asked about potentially wearing the newly legal Guardian cap, he said, quote, "Well, how much risk do we take when we get up in the morning and drive to work? Get into a car crash? I don't know. Everything I think takes risks. Every time we suit up, we all take a risk that we potentially get hurt, whether it's a concussion or broken bone. There's just risk in any and everything, and I'm willing to play the odds." So Tua, of course, he is going to be playing. He is still going to be going all out for the Miami Dolphins. Of course, now Dolphins fans are all talking about how they're going to have to hold their breath on every pressure that comes against this Miami Dolphins offensive line, because, as you know, from a medical standpoint, one more hit and Tua Tagovailoa could potentially be in a lot more serious trouble than he has been in the past with these concussions. So, JJ, first of all, do you think it is wise for Tua to go back out there, especially with a beat-up offensive line, and a pretty decent Arizona Cardinals defense that they're going to be facing? Do you think it's wise for him to go out there and go all out week 1 back from a concussion?
Well, Andrew, I don't think it's wise for him not to wear the Guardian cap, but I do think it is wise for him to go back on the football field. He said in his press conference as well that, and Mike McDaniel said this, that he could have been ready 2 weeks ago. He could have played the game last week, and he was totally ready against the Colts. However, they wanted to give him that extra time. They wanted him to rest that bye week after the New England game, or before the New England game. And I think that it is smart to give him that extra time where he is 100%. He's not 96. He's not 98. He's 100%. He's been in practice. He has been, in what from I've heard, he has been hitting his receivers in practice. We know his connection between the receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is just something that is unbearable. This connection between them two is excellent. And I think that having him back this week is very smart. Now, the Guardian cap is not something smart at all. Tua is injury prone. We've seen it through his days at Alabama, where he was injured at Alabama. First season he was drafted, he missed the first 8 games Ryan Fitzpatrick started. The season after that, got injured in that Packers game, then got injured last season, missed 6 games, and now is injured again in his 5th season this season. He is injury prone. People are just injury prone. Once you get it the first time, the concussion, you are bound to get it another time. So why not wear the Guardian cap? Football is just as dangerous as the other sports he mentioned. He said it's not hockey. It's not. Well, he is injury prone. He has been hit multiple times. I think that Tua should be wearing the Guardian cap this week. However, having him back, which I think I want to talk a little bit about, is something that you can't trade. Having Tua Tagovailoa back in this offense. In the first 2 weeks that Tua Tagovailoa played, The Dolphins had a 71.7% passing grade. The team did in total in 6 completions for 15 yards or more. In weeks 3 to 7, which is almost triple the time, the offense with Tyler Huntley has had a 51.2 passing yard team grade and only 9 completions for 15 or more yards in triple the time. So having someone like Tua back who has been excellent, and I think there has been a lot of talk on if he's the guy. Well, I think it's been proven with trying out other guys on this football team.
Yeah, and the other big X factor with Tua returning is Tyreek Hill, who we'll get to the injury report again in a moment. Tyreek Hill is expected to play today, according to sources. But over the last 17 games between Tyreek Hill and Tua, he has had 132 receptions on just under 200 targets, 1,853 receiving yards, and 13 touchdown catches. Hill was just targeted twice last Sunday and hasn't scored since week 1. Now, we all know Tyreek Hill, one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in football. And a lot of people are now saying, is Tua actually one of the reasons for Tyreek Hill's recent success? Because if we're seeing just from these stats, he's obviously been amazing when Tua's playing, and he just wasn't targeted a lot when he wasn't. So do you think that Tua is playing a pretty major role in Tyreek Hill's career right now?
Yeah, you see the connection between the two, the podcast between the two. They are like brothers, and I do think that connection is something that is, and as we brought up before, them two have a connection that you can't break between Tyreek Hill in the last 17 games. As you mentioned, he played with Tua. He has 132 receptions on 199 targets, 1,853 receiving yards, 13 touchdown catches. And it went back to 2 years ago when Tyreek Hill was asked in a press conference, why is he playing with the Dolphins? And he stated Tua Tagovailoa is the best quarterback in the NFL. He is better than the former quarterback Tyreek Hill played with, Patrick Mahomes. He stated that clearly those two love each other. Those two have a bond, a connection. And I think that Tyreek Hill playing with someone that he trusts, someone that Tua is going to look to as his first option, is only going to help this Dolphins team.
Oh, definitely. I think that connection just over the past couple of years has shown to be strong. I think that the other thing is Tua knows how Tyreek likes to play. Of course, you mentioned the completions of 15 yards or more is huge for this Dolphins team. So I think that in terms of Tyreek Hill and Tua being back together, Tua is going to get to look deep a little bit more. And hopefully make a good connection with Tyreek in this game against the Cardinals, who definitely have a bit of a beat-up secondary. So, you know what? On that topic of the Cardinals, let's talk about their team going into this game. Of course, we can't talk about the Cardinals without talking about top 3 pick this year in Marvin Harrison Jr., and he did suffer a knee injury of late, but he will play. But right now, if you Google Marvin Harrison Jr., you see articles and videos and any type of media that says he's a bust, which I think is insane because we're halfway into his first season. A rookie is never going to go out there and just be absolutely insane. He had a bit of an injury. But people are still saying, hey, Malik Neighbors might be better. And he has Daniel Jones throwing the ball to him and was also hurt. So there's a lot of, speculation on whether Marvin Harrison was warranted to have that top 3 pick. Do you think that Marvin Harrison still has the potential to be a top wide receiver in the future? I'm not talking about today. I'm not talking about next week or the rest of the season because he still needs to grow. He still has time to grow. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. going to be a bust in the future?
Well, Andrew, you know this. I know this. NFL fans like to overreact. That's what makes life interesting, having talking points to talk about. And I think so far through 6 games or 7 games, the Cardinals fans and the NFL overall has overreacted. You have to give Marvin Harrison some time. He has the 3rd lowest separation rate in the NFL among receivers, the lowest among rookie wide receivers. So he's not able to create separations between quarterback, cornerbacks and the secondary itself. But I think you have to give Marvin Harrison Jr. some time. Kyler Murray, obviously being the veteran, he is elusive, versatile. He wants to get to the perimeter and scramble himself. He's not looking to throw the ball as the first option. Their identity. The Cardinals' identity is run the football. That is their number one identity. That's what they want to do, Andrew. So looking for someone like Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be your number one target on offense, but you have to give him some time. Yes, the separation route is concerning. Yes, you want to be able to get open and create separation so that Kyler Murray doesn't have to fit the football in such tiny holes. However, give Marvin Harrison some time. He was amazing at Ohio State, making some amazing catches, and he's a top 3 pick for a reason. Give him some time to develop, and I think the Cardinals will overall see a star in Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I just want to real quick thank everyone in the chat for being here. Thank you, everyone, for the kind words. And it's definitely going to be quite a game today and have some good emotions from what I'm seeing over in the chat. But I definitely agree with everything you said about Marvin Harrison Jr. And you're right about the overreactions, because I just don't think it's warranted in any way, shape, or form, because again, this is a young man who had an excellent college career, more than excellent, and he of course was a top 3 pick. I don't think you can call anyone a bust until he doesn't do anything for the first 3 seasons of his career. We're a couple weeks in to the first season in his young career, and today he's going to be facing a Miami who is pretty beat up. So in terms of Marvin Harrison, talking about the separation that he can get from the secondary, you're talking about how he needs to just get a little more open for Kyler Murray to thread the needle. Do you think that Marvin Harrison has made these upgrades, and is that going to translate to potentially the game today against the Dolphins?
Well, Andrew, I don't know because I'm not in Cardinals practice, but I do know it is an emphasis that the Cardinals team overall is trying to work on, creating separation for your star, for your rookie wide receiver. However, this Miami Dolphins secondary is banged up. DB Storm Duck, or defensive back Storm Duck, is doubtful with an injury. We know Kader Kohu, who plays at the nickel position, he does drop back to the secondary, sometimes cornerback position, is out with a neck injury. Cam Smith, the rookie, the 2nd-round pick, is expected to fill in for him. He's going to be able to play against a secondary of the Miami Dolphins that is completely banged up, that is completely hurt. And if there's a week to do it, it's against the Miami Dolphins. They have ranked really bad in their secondary on defense itself. We'll get to that in a bit. But overall, this is the week that Marvin Harrison needs to step up.
Definitely, and that's mostly going to be because of Kyler Murray, who as of recent has shown that he is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the league, like he was drafted to be. He likes to buy a lot of time out of the pocket, and when he scrambles to the perimeter, he is going to gain a ton of yards for this Arizona Cardinals offense. He ranks 5th in rushing yards this season and 7th overall in dual threat ability when averaging passing and rushing yards. And he's only 2nd behind the young Bo Nix in yards per carry. So I definitely think that Kyler Murray is going to be trouble for this Dolphins offense, because as we've seen in the past, once I think Kyler Murray gets free, I don't know who's catching him out there, especially when we're distracted by Marvin Harrison and some of their other wide receivers. And also, the 3 games that the Cardinals have won this season were the 3 games with the most yards for Kyler Murray. So he is definitely going to be the X factor for this Cardinals offense. What do you think the Dolphins defense needs to do to really keep this dual threat Kyler Murray in check today, JJ? JJ, you're muted.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kyler Murray, he is elusive. He is a dual threat. And the matchup we're all going to be watching is Kyler Murray against this Dolphins secondary. This Dolphins front 7. And when you look at the two, there's a lot of similarities between both of them. Kyler Murray himself is able to scramble outside the pocket. He's versatile. He's elusive. He's quick. And he ranks number 5 overall in rushing yards this year, number 5 overall in rushing grade yards, 7th in overall rushing yards, and 2nd in average yards per carry. So overall, he is someone who is quick, speedy, elusive, versatile. He's able to get on the perimeter and be able to exploit this Dolphins team. And this Dolphins D line is very beat up. Zach Sealer is out. He is currently suffering an eye injury, I believe it is. And Calais Campbell is questionable for today's game. He did not play in Wednesday or Thursday's practice. So having 2 guys on the D line out in this front 7 Dolphins team is going to be something that is going to be a huge loss for the Miami Dolphins. You don't have speedy guys on the D line to be able to stop Kyler Murray. Now, not just at the second level that Kyler Murray has to pass, as we mentioned, is the linebackers. You have many guys banged up in the linebacker room for the Miami Dolphins, which is something that you obviously want to avoid, but there's nothing you can do about it. Kader Kohu, the nickel, is out. As we mentioned, Cam Smith, who is speedy, but again, he's a rookie. If he does good, then if he's able to have a good game, and this is something that I wanted to bring up, although it's off topic, then we can move Kader Kohu back to cornerback instead of playing him at that right outside linebacker position, and then have Cam Smith fill in that nickel position. Now, when you look at this Dolphins team as a whole, as I've mentioned, Kader Kohu is out and Storm Duck is out. So you have so many injuries on the defense that I feel like Kyler Murray is going to be able to get past this front 7, is going to use his legs and scrambling talent and ability, 2nd in yards per carry, to be able to win this football game. If that's what they need. I mean, when you look at Cardinals' overall wins so far this season, in the 3 games where Kyler Murray had the most rushing yards, the Cardinals won all 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely insane. And also, the Cardinals have had an interesting year because they won against teams like the 49ers and Chargers. 49ers, of course, one of the top offenses in football. And then the Chargers, who new QB in Harbaugh, they've been showing that they've been a stronger team than they have been in the past. They beat both of them. But then in weeks after, they get absolutely blown out by Washington and Green Bay. This team is one of the most up and down, unpredictable teams that the Dolphins will face all season. And I want to just flip over to the defensive side of the ball real quick, because the Cardinals' defense is nothing to necessarily scoff at. They haven't shown that they are the best. Of course, they got absolutely blown out twice, so a lot of yards and runs given up. But they rank 26th in the NFL total. They're 27th in total defense and 24th in scoring defense. And the Cardinals' defense is worst in the NFL on third down defense. And their passing defense is 26th in the NFL. There are so many things that the Dolphins can exploit here, especially also when their top corner, Sean Murphy-Bunting, will be out with a neck injury. This is Tua and Tyreek's chance to really get out there and put on a show and show that they are one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in the sport of football. Of course, Budda Baker is going to make some things hard for this Dolphins offense because he is leading the team in goals and overall impact. So there's a lot to be excited about for the Dolphins in terms of how can they exploit this Cardinals defense. And JJ, what do you think the main thing that Tua is going to need to be looking for out there on the field against them? Muted. JJ, unmute.
Apologies again. Well, Andrew, let's go to the prompt itself, which is how do the Miami Dolphins, how are they able to exploit this Cardinals defense? So let's talk about this Dolphins offense as a whole. They rank 30th or lower in so many statistics. I was counting this morning. I lost account on how many statistics they rank 30th or lower. Completions, pressures allowed, passing yards, gaining 20 or more yards. This offense hasn't been productive at all. They haven't been able to gain yards in this Cardinals defense. Yes, they aren't the strongest defense in the NFL, but there is a lot that this Dolphins offense has to do to step up. Jalen Wright he needs to continue performing well. He should remain the focal point as well in this Dolphins offense. Jonnu Smith's role has been increasing. He's consistently got more and more catches each week. He's been a vocal point in this offense. And OBJ, who was signed this offseason, has seen limited playing time. I don't believe he has a catch this season so far. So using him could be beneficial for this Dolphins team in general. So that's what this Dolphins offense has to do as a whole. This Cardinals defense, however, has struggled. Buda Baker is their main guy in the secondary. The play that most Fins fans might remember, the play that was all over the internet, was when he had the interception last season against the Seahawks and DK Metcalf chased him down, which was a memory I think all of us will remember for a wide receiver to chase a quarterback down 15 yards behind him. So I'm sure if DK Metcalf can do that, Tyreek Hill can do that, and I expect them to be one-on-one, Baker and Hill. Of their top corner, Sean Murphy, will be out with a neck injury. And overall, this team in passing defense, they rank 26th. They rank 27th in total defense and 24th in scoring defense. And for Miami, to make matters better, the defense is the worst in the NFL in third down defense. Passing defense is 27th, 26th, as I brought up earlier. And their defense in total, 27th. So, Miami, they have struggled on third downs. How we started the season, that game against Jacksonville, we were excellent on third down percentage. I believe 8 for 10 was it injured. Correct me if I'm wrong. But later and later on to the season, the third downs have struggled to convert. And most of it, yes, some of it has to do with Mike McDaniel's play calling, but I think most of that has to do with the players on the field. They have to be able to produce. There's been a lot of false starts, especially on third downs, and the Cardinals giving up third downs is something that the Miami Dolphins are going to have to their advantage. They're going to be able to utilize their offense. They're going to be clicking on these third downs, and if they can convert on some third downs, it's going to be a fun day.
Oh, it's definitely going to be a fun day. If the Dolphins can march down the field like they have in the past, or, Tua just throws an 80-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill, that works also. Real quick, David in the chat said I need to get some Dolphins merch in the background. I'll be working on that soon. Don't worry. And also, thank you so much, Thomas and Finn's Take, for joining us today. And I thank you for your support. So, you mentioned that this Dolphins offense, if they can convert on those third downs, like they definitely struggled with last week, even on fourth downs, they'll be set. And I believe that you are 100% right. If we want to talk, though, about the Cardinals offense and what our defense needs to do to stop them once again, Terry McBride is actually the guy leading their team interceptions with 33 and 332 receiving yards. And James Conner is a force with 504 yards on the season and 4.6 attempt. I'm definitely a little scared again because we're talking about how we have a dual threat quarterback, but now we also have a top wide receiver and a top running back that the Dolphins offense or defense needs to look after now as well. But the good news is they're ranked 25th league with just 181 yards per game in the air, which is definitely great. But of course, we know that our defensive line is probably the worst part of our defense right now. So we're going to need to see how they kind of work this out and stop the rush from Kyler Murray and James Conner.
Yeah, and Andrew, you mentioned this offense of the Cardinals. Yes, it has struggled. It hasn't scored over 24 points since last season where they played the Dallas Cowboys. So yes, this Cardinals offense has struggled, but Terry McBride, someone who I was a huge fan of coming out of college at Colorado State, second-round pick, highly talented receiver, especially for a Group of 5 conference in the Mountain West. So something that Terry McBride has to be proud of, this Cardinals team has to be proud of. But James Conner as well, 504 yards, 4.6 per attempt, which is solid for an NFL average. And yes, the offense ranks 25th with just 181 yards in the air, which Kyler Murray has struggled through the air. But let's not forget Kyler Murray through the ground on his legs is second in yards per carry overall in the NFL. He's fifth in overall scrambling ability. He's seventh in combined rushing and passing yards. And if you average them all, so let's not forget that they want to utilize Kyler Murray, especially with this banged up secondary. And why don't they do well on third downs? Well, that's because they have to throw the football. And we want to force them out of their comfort zone. We want to try to get them in those long down situations, 1st and 20, or if they get an offensive holding, or maybe get some key sacks on this D line. You don't have Zach Sealer. You don't have, most likely, I know Ogba did not practice. So this you're gonna have to force them into long down situations where they can't play through their identity. You have to make them play through the receiving game, and that's what the Dolphins want to force this Cardinals defense to do.
Yeah, 100%. I've said it better. I think that this offense is going to be tough. They don't necessarily have the stats to show it, but they are one of the most elusive offenses in football. And again, if Marvin Harrison Jr. can do his thing, if Terry McBride and James Conner can do their thing, and especially if Kyler Murray can do their thing, Dolphins might be in a bit of trouble. But I'm going to remain optimistic. Don't worry. And hopefully we're going to be back here after the game, and we're going to be very happy with how this Dolphins defense was able to perform. JJ, let's talk some predictions, though, before we get into some of the nitty-gritty with some transactions and things like that. JJ, what are you going to be up to at the game today?
Yeah, so I'm going to be going to the game, me and my good friend, and we're going to be going around Hard Rock Stadium asking Dolphins fans some trivia questions for $20. They need 5 questions correct. If they get all 5 right, they get $20. So if you're going to be at the game, come find us. We're going to be at the South Entrance tailgate talking to some Finn fans. So if you guys want a chance to win $20, the diehard fans, come find us. 5 trivia questions. You can't cheat by watching the 5 trivia because we mix up all 5 each and every time. Each person's going to have 5 trivia. We went through 100 possible questions and scenarios. So me and my friend, it's mostly going to be my friend who is going to be doing the trivia. I'm going to be going around asking Finn fans some predictions. Andrew, gonna try come down sometime soon to Hard Rock Stadium. So make sure you guys tune in at Hard Rock Stadium to watch some trivia, and come find us if you want to participate in Dolphins trivia. 5 questions right, a chance to win $20.
Yeah, guys, go find your JJ if you're headed out to Hard Rock today. That's sure to be fun. And let's hope that you guys are some good fans. But let's talk about some of the nitty-gritty for the Dolphins today, some roster moves and injuries. Teron Armstead is back in today and hopefully can help keep Tua upright in the pocket because, as we know, he definitely needs it as well. Defensive back Storm Duck is doubtful with an ankle injury, as JJ mentioned earlier. He is definitely going to be one of those guys on this defense that could have helped out a lot in a situation like this. Unfortunately, is not going to be able to. Sources say Tyreek Hill will be playing this week, even though he had that foot injury he was dealing with. Defensive tackle Zach Saylor is out with an eye injury. He actually fractured an orbital bone on Thursday during practice. And, of course, the big one, Tua Tagovailoa is expected to play. He was activated following his concussion in week 2. JJ, I just want to get a quick full thoughts on the injuries. How much do you think they're going to affect this game? And how optimistic are you about some of these guys that were activated?
Well, the main injury and something that has been hurting the Dolphins through weeks 3 to 7 is Tua Tagovailoa, and I think that he's back. Nothing else is really going to matter. You don't have any star injured. Teron Armstead is going to be back today on the offensive line. This Dolphins offensive line has been the weakest position on the football field for the Miami Dolphins, so that's going to be really solid. And we've mentioned the injuries. Zach Sealer on the D line. I think the D line is going to hurt a lot because Kyler Murray wants to rush the football. He wants to hand it off to James Conner, who averages nearly 5 yards to carry. And if this run game is able to exploit this Dolphins D line, that's going to lead to a recipe for success for the Arizona Cardinals. And if they run the football on 60-70% of plays, say they run it first and second down, get it to like 3rd and 2, they're going to want to run it again. We may see a football game where the Arizona Cardinals run the football on 80, possibly 90% of plays. But if the Miami Dolphins are able to get to a strong start, it's not going to matter because the Cardinals are going to need to throw the football. If you're firing on all cylinders, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are able to get open on this offense. Jalen Wright is playing as good as he has so far the last few weeks. Jonnu Smith does his thing. He's able to get open on some hitch routes. Tyreek and Waddle. Waddle's more of that slant guy. You're going to find Tyreek on those streaks, which a lot of fans want to see him go open and throw it to him deep. But this injury isn't going to be These injuries aren't going to be too crucial if the Dolphins offense does their job. Now, if you do get down 14-0, the Arizona Cardinals are going to look to run the football, milk the clock down, limit possessions on this Dolphins offense, and that can only hurt the Miami Dolphins on the whole team in general because you have Zach Sealer out, who is huge. So I think that this is going to be very interesting. A very, very, very solid game we're going to see. And I'm super excited to be there. Overall predictions, Andrew, you got any score predictions?
Ooh, score predictions. You know what? We'll get to that in a little bit because just quick, some more roster moves before we do that because I want to make sure everyone out there knows some of my reasons for these score predictions. Roster moves, though, as we mentioned, Cam Smith was activated this week and he is definitely looking to get a good amount of playing time today. QB CJ Beathard was signed to the practice squad because Tyler Huntley goes to the IR after an injury he suffered last week, and they bring up wide receiver D. Exridge to hopefully help out with some of that wide receiving core today. And, of course, Tua Tagovailoa is activated, and Tim Boyle, who helped out with this rough time that the Dolphins have been in, was released. Score predictions. Listen, I absolutely love what the Dolphins did weeks 1 and 2 of this season. Of course, Tua goes down, whole thing goes downhill. Now, I think that this game relies more on Tua than anyone else. I think Tyreek Hill has the potential to be good only if Tua is good. Same for Jalen Waddle and stuff like that. He's not going to be looking for short passes for 5 yards. He is going to be looking 80 yards down the field to score touchdowns time after time again. I am going to go with a nice, 28-17 Dolphins win. Now, I'm saying that they're going to give up 17 because, like I said, this Dolphins defense is, again, a little beat up. I would like them to give up a little less, but I think that for 28, 4 touchdowns, that is 100% manageable by this Dolphins offense, who is back with Tua and Tyreek and the rest of the gang. What about you, JJ?
So this is tough because we don't know what Miami Dolphins team we're going to see. We haven't seen Tua since week 2 in a game where you got down, 28-7, where James Cook was running all over the D-line, and I don't want to see that again. The last time the Miami Dolphins faced a run-dominant team who's going to run it on 80% of the plays was against the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not saying the Buffalo Bills run it as much as the Cardinals. They actually do throw the ball a lot, but without Stephon Diggs this season, we've seen them turn into a run-only offense, and they ran the ball to James Cook so much that time. He had 3 touchdowns in the first half alone. They gave it to him on every play, and we couldn't stop them. And now with Zealer out, it's going to be very hard. So I don't want to see that again. But again, let's not change these things up. Let's not sugarcoat it. The Arizona Cardinals are a much worse football team than the Buffalo Bills. And I think that the Miami Dolphins offense is going to be firing on all cylinders. I see Tyreek Hill getting open in the end zone for multiple touchdowns in the first half. I feel like this is going to be the game where we see Tyreek Hill really stand out. We saw it in the Jacksonville game the morning where he was arrested, actually. But I think we're going to see it again. Him and Tua, they have some connection, and to watch that live is going to be special. Give me the Fins 31-21. I think that on the offensive side of the ball. I think the Cardinals are actually going to be exploiting this Dolphins D line and be able to gain key yardage from Kyler Murray. But I also think that Tua Tagovailoa in this offense is going to be super solid. So, Andrew, there is a question in the chat about who is going to replace Zach Sealer on the defensive line. When you look at this Dolphins team in general, who do you have replacing Zach Sealer?
Ooh, it's definitely a tough question. I think that he was definitely a difference maker for this team, and I think that him being out is not necessarily going to be great. I don't really know, JJ. It's a tough question. I think that Coach McDaniel, either way, is going to make an interesting decision that I don't know how many people are going to enjoy. Do you have any thoughts, real quick? I need to think of something.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's a lot of other options you could turn to. But again, Emmanuel Ogba is someone that I am looking at first, looking at this base 3-4 D line in general. You do have guys who I think can easily fill in for Zach Zealer. But we're gonna get to see in general how this team does. I think you have to put into account Ugba. But yeah, I mean, right now, when you look at this defensive line of the Miami Dolphins, you obviously have Benito Jones, who's going to be starting Calais Campbell, who did not practice, but I think he's going to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So you have those two guys, and then I would probably put in Ogba as well.
Yeah, I actually
because they play a 3-4, so they're gonna
Yeah. I'm going to go with Deshaun Hand here. Young guy. I think that he has the potential to be good. I don't think he's going to live up to Zach's performance so far this season, but I think that he is going to be good, as that's what Finn's Take just said in the chat. But I just want to see, Finn's Take also said 27-17 for their score prediction. Let's hear some more score predictions in the chat if you have those. And I definitely agree as well. Keep Tua under 33 attempts, because Dolphins, they definitely have the potential to have an excellent running game today. So keep those score predictions coming in the chat and let us know what you think.
Yeah, Andrew, and I see some chats that I want to react to. David DeCraft and Reed, I apologize if I'm butchering that name. Thank you so much for your comment, and thank you very much for tuning in. I would like to answer his point. He thinks that because I said the Dolphins were going to put up 31 is a bit outrageous. He said 31, LOL. So if you wouldn't mind, let me explain why. This Cardinals defense isn't the defense that Miami Dolphins have faced. This is the worst defense the Dolphins have faced so far this season. They rank 26th in passing, 27th in total defense. They have given up more than 14 points in each game this season. I believe it is 24th in scoring defense, and they are worst, dead last, 32nd in third down defense. So I think the Miami Dolphins on the offense with Tua back is going to have a field day. And let's not forget, Tyler Huntley isn't the quarterback. We are going to be going back with Tua Tagovailoa, someone who has led the team, put the team on his back, and been able to lead this team to wins. So I think that putting up 31 points is definitely something that's possible. Andrew, Finn's Take with CB83. I believe that's college basketball. No, Finn's Take saying 27-17. What are your thoughts on that score prediction?
I actually like it more than my score prediction, because I agree with him. I think that his logic with the fact that we're going to end up with 2 field goals is a lot more sound than my logic that we're going to end up with just 4 straight touchdowns. I think that he definitely came up with a bit of a better score prediction. I definitely agree with him. Very similar to what I said, but very good score prediction. Aaron Watts says Kyler Murray is inconsistent, 31-17 Miami. Again, we're seeing most people are saying Miami is going to give up about 17 points, and I think that is quite logical as well, given what's the state of our defensive line is and how Kyler Murray likes to play. let's hear some final thoughts, JJ, before we wrap this up, because I know you have to get heading to the game, and all the people watching also have to get headed to the game soon. What do you think, JJ?
I'm excited for Tua to return. Fins Nation is going to show up to today's game. Can't wait to meet some of you. I want you guys to participate in our trivia contest, Southgate. I believe it's Southside Tailgate that we're going to be going around asking some Fin fans. I think this Dolphins team has to jump out to hot starts, force this Cardinals team into long down distant plays, and have those 2nd and 15s, 3rd and 20s where they have to throw the football because that's where they're uncomfortable. And the Dolphins D line is also uncomfortable. So if they run the football, that's going to exploit this D line. The secondary is back. A lot of guys are back this week. So I'm excited for some Fins football. Fins up, baby.
Yeah, thank you so much, JJ, for joining me today. We got one more score prediction. Bob in the chat says Fins 20-17. A lot closer of a game, but also makes a lot of sense. Thank you guys, everyone, so much for tuning in today. This is DolphinsTalk.com. Follow all of our socials. You can see them at the bottom of the screen. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. JJ, where can we find some of your stuff?
Oh, thank you. I was surprised. Thank you for the to the platform shout out. But yes, you guys can follow me for some Dolphins FAU coverage over on X at JJ Mets FAU. I follow everyone back, so make sure to follow at JJ Mets FAU on X if you guys want to stay up to date with some FAU coverage, some Canes coverage. I cover the Heat, the Dolphins. So super excited. Yeah, you guys can check me out there. But make sure to follow Andrew Hefner, also doing some New York sports, New Jersey in specific, but specifically the Miami Dolphins. He's a Fins fan in New Jersey. A lot of Fins fans cover that area in the New York, New Jersey area. Was surprised to see how many Fins fans I know there when I went up there this summer. So check out Andrew as well.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Enjoy the game today. It's sure to be a good one. Let's make sure we exploit this Arizona Cardinals defense and get a win today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.